Joyride, 1957, a novel of intrigue by J.P. Wasmiller, chapter 111. The next morning, James slept late. He then ate a late breakfast or brunch. He then headed to the library and dug through old records, history books, and pictures the rest of the afternoon and into the evening. His research this day was not completely fruitless. What he learned was that the various religious groups formed missions not only in California but also in the Northwest. The most famous of these was the Whitman mission in Walla Walla, Washington. It was established around 1830 by Marcus Whitman, a Presbyterian minister. Another was established at Point Adams, where the Columbia River met the Pacific Ocean. At Whitman, there was a massacre of 12 settlers by the Indians. Catholics also started missions and were active in the Northwest. James determined that Europeans may have been in the Northwest before Lewis and Clark and the fur traders. He thought now there was growing evidence that the Kensington explorers may have been in the Northwest and even viewed the Pacific Ocean in 1363. After all the evidence was circumstantial, but was turning up more frequently in his research. Also, he began thinking that maybe the French fur traders could have been in the Northwest long before the 1700s, as history related. And maybe they were keeping their secret, the treasure trove of furs, to keep out the competition. The librarian came to his table, reminding him that the library would close in 15 minutes. He immediately thought of the librarian in Kelowna. That slightly heavyweight blonde gave him the massage of his life and some information he desperately needed. This librarian was in her 50s and graying with horn-rimmed glasses. All the same, she had helped him quite a bit. He tipped her a $5 bill, thanked her, and headed out into the pea soup, heading for the Metropolitan Grill. He had a date with a porterhouse steak and the most beautiful red-headed girl in the Northwest. As he walked, he realized he had not paid any attention to the missions. There was not much left of any missions in the Northwest, but he was aware that there were many well-preserved missions south of here in California. He walked into a restaurant and saw the same dark-haired hostess he had seen on an earlier visit to the bar. He thanked her for the prior referral, and she escorted him to the bar. "His drinks are on the house," she said. "What'll you have?" the bartender said. "Coca-Cola," James said. "Rum?" "No, just straight Coca-Cola, thanks," he said, and took a long drink of the dark brown cold liquid. Soon his table was ready, and the dark-haired hostess seated him. "Are you waiting for someone?" she asked. He nodded. She bought him another Coca-Cola and told him his waitress would be there shortly. She truly was a beautiful woman, he decided. He wondered what would have happened if she had been the one that came to his room the other night. All these thoughts melted away when his redhead in the long, tight-fitting black dress suddenly appeared. She wore a bright gold necklace and her hair flowed down to her waist. He stood immediately and bowed. "You are the most beautiful woman I have ever seen," he said, then stumbled forward on the chair. She grabbed his arm to stabilize him, and then kissed him long and deep. Pretty soon the patrons around her began to clap. The two did not seem to notice, and finally sat down. She had bribed the dark-haired hostess to let her off work this evening so she could be with James. The two were in a love trance and could not seem to concentrate on the menu. Finally the waiter said, "Porterhouse medium and a filet rare, Caesar salads and baked potatoes with everything. I'll bring the sourdough bread out presently." He turned and went to the kitchen to put in the order. The two picked at their food for a couple of hours, staring and talking and kissing. Finally, the waiter told them the restaurant was closing, but they could have a seat in the bar, which would be open for another 2 hours. They remained in another universe until the bar closed, then returned through the fog to the Olympic Hotel in a second night of heavenly bliss. Their energy lasted until first light, but of course there was no first light in the fog-bound city of Seattle. Nonetheless, the two slept until noon. They then showered and went for lunch in the Olympic dining room.